Greetings and welcome to Nature's Bounties. Here's the special program designed for health and wellness. My name is Marian Oluyinka Atolagbe. I'm a Christian lifestyle consultant. Today we're going to look at the purpose. Why Nature's Bounty? What's our intention? Why is this program being aired? Why do we need it? Why do we want it? But before we go too far, let's pause and ask the Lord's blessing. Do you mind? Please, let's do so. Dear Father, we pray that you bless us as we share those things that you have made. We do not have the knowledge, but we trust that you will help us. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. Welcome again, and I'm glad to be with you. I praise the Lord for such an opportunity. It's a great opportunity for us to know how we can tap out of God's abounding things of nature. Simple things though they are, but nevertheless they are very powerful, and they get me real excited because when I see what they can do in the human body and how they have helped the whole being, I thrill, I wonder, and then I rejoice. Why such a program? Why do we need to express what we can do? But the purpose really is to educate. The decision making is going to be for each person. When an educational program is aired, is given, then each one can make choices. Choices based on science, evidence based. Very important. In making choices, we can then be able to know what is the best thing for us. Because you see, I was born into a Christian home, and my mother was the primary person that led me in the path of life, in the path of the Christian way. And I loved her so much because of the impact she made in my life. Then I also wanted to impact it to others also. Not just to my family, but to the entire world. And that is why I began to seek for ways whereby I can share this wonderful gospel of health to each one. And I pray and trust that the Lord will lead and direct so that this can be shared in such a way that it will impact life. Because you see, in the world that we live today, there are many problems. And we want to see what we can do, no matter how small. As I always tell people, I learned the story of the star thrower, the sea star, when he says, I pick one, I throw it back into the sea. And that saved the life of one person. That theory I appreciate, and I know that is going to be of the best blessing to everyone. I didn't come to it by chance. I didn't get to know or to learn of these things just by the way. I really set out time to seek for knowledge in this direction, and with the primary aim, the primary purpose of helping humanity. And that gives a lot of joy. As an adult, I had served in the university teaching psychology and sociology for up to 15 years. But that was not satisfying that deep desire. In studying psychology, I loved it. You can see life, and you can see behavior, and you can see choices, and so forth. But I wanted more. And in doing that, I went back to school to learn how to be in the line of naturopathy medicine. And I went to several institutions, one of which was Uche Pines Institute in Alabama in USA. In South Dakota, I went to Black Hills Life Health and Education Center, and I learned quite a lot. And in serving, I have served in many ways, but before I actually settled into naturopathic medicine, I did serve in the hospital as a respiratory care therapist. For 7 years, I worked in the hospital, bedside therapy, emergency, running around the hospital. But then I learned a lot there too, that many of the things that we do last minute, they usually don't help. Why don't we prevent? Why don't we nip things in the bud? I love nipping in the bud. I love having a problem solved before it becomes emergency situation. Plus, in our own situation, in this part of the globe, in Africa, in Nigeria, especially where I live, I see so many situations that could have been helped, but because it was left for too long, now we have to embark on emergency, last minute, trying to save the individual. We need to understand God willing helping us so that we can do those things to prevent. I love preventive medicine. I love it because it helps. We may not understand in the long run that, oh, I was saved, but then we will understand in final analysis that natural health care can help a lot. Natural health care, by the way, is not that weird, superstitious things that we all, I want to stay away from that. I don't want to be a part of that. No, this is not it. This is what will help us to learn, to be educated, how our body works, what we can do to help our situation, and then we can help others also, because in doing that, we help the whole mankind, humanity. We have a challenge, and this is the challenge. I like to put this before you, and I like you to look at it very closely. In this part of the world, we do have 911. I know what 911 is because I worked in the country, in the United States, where it works. Within 3 minutes, ambulance will get to your place. If they are late, and when I worked in the hospital, if they gave me the arrest pager and I don't get to the bedside within seconds, less than a minute, you've got to be there. We don't have that here. And that becomes a great challenge. What do we do when we need help? When a little child in the middle of the night is in distress, what do I do as a mother? I must have some information in my hand to help me, to curb a problem that would deteriorate very fast, very quickly. This is what natural health care is all about. And that is why it is called home remedies. Home remedies, simple home remedies. This is what we want to do in this program, Nature's Bounty. What can you do? What can I do? What can we do as a community to help ourselves in emergency situations when getting help may not be as fast and as quick as we need it? What can we do immediately? Knowledge is very important. Educating ourselves in this line of thinking, training, and understanding. And you know what? It's not rocket science. No, it is not rocket science. It is what I can do. Any other person can do it. We can do it. If the hospitals are congested, we saw what happened during the height of COVID-19. TV was showing us. Over the internet, people were sending pictures. People lying on the floor, no bed in the hospital. What do we do? How do we prevent? Even cases of people who are trying to get into the hospital and they died in the car. I read of one and it was so pathetic, it touched my heart. What can we do? Somebody has a chronic disease. How can we help the experts to manage such situations at home? Because not all the time are we going to be able to get the experts to be with us at home. And these are challenges that we have in our own situations. I believe very fervently with all my heart that it is time that this type of program be aired and be shared in such a way that our community can be invited. Come and listen to this. This is wonderful. I have tried it. It is working. This is our aim. This is why we want to have this program, so that many will be saved. I believe it is time. If there be no other time, it is now. It is time for us to have such, so that we can be educated in such a way, simple education, where we can look around our homes and say, oh, that's wonderful. What's the relevance of nature to me? What's the relevance of nature to us? If we cannot use it to the best that God has intended it to be. You see, we are the masterpiece of God's creation. We are the ones that God has made, and then He made every other things in nature for us, so that indeed we can have the best of life. Nature was made by God, and nature was made for man. Yes, we are the masterpiece of nature. But then what about the other things around us? How can we harness them so that we can use them to help this body to be in the best of health? Take a look at the wonderful things around you. From the sun to the moon in the evening, to the seasons that changes. one season to the other, to the little birds that fly, to the insects, to the butterfly, little things of nature. Then look at the plants. Sometimes we see only weeds and we cut them all off. But when we begin to see more than weeds in our environment, then we begin to see that there are things that God has given, simple things that will help us so that we can be in the best of health. So the question that we will be answering in this program will be, how can I get the best out of nature for my health, for my life? How can I get the best out of nature to stay well? How can I get the best out of nature in the midst of deprivation and deprivation? How can I get the best out of nature so that I will not be at a loss and my life can be of the best for the Master's use? What can I do in an emergency situation? What can I do when my health is good? How do I maintain it? How is it that I will not go roller coaster? Today I'm well, tomorrow I'm down. No, we don't want that. We want to maintain a constant good health all the time. How can I do this? How do I know the things that are giving me good health and to maintain it? How do I know the things that are destroying my health and to leave them alone? If I know the differences between all this, then I will make history. Why? Because my neighbors will begin to look at me and say, what's going on here? Tell us. Tell me. Share with me. Your children are in good health. Your family is doing very well. Health is very important. And when we lose it, it's when we appreciate it. But it should not be that way. We don't want to lose our health before we appreciate our health. We want to appreciate our health when we are in good health. And that is our goal. That is our intent, to make sure that we remain in good health, because health is very important. It is key to everything. If I don't have good health, of what use? I need that health so that I can maintain my work, my service to mankind, and my worship to God. In everything I do, I want to be sure that I am in good health. To be sure that I'm in good health means that I need to have an idea of what my health is. Nature at its best is what natural care is. The question I ask myself is, how can I get the best out of nature for my health? How can we get the best out of nature to stay well? How do we know the difference when we are well and doing well? What are the things that we have been doing that keeps us in good health? If we know them, then we'll stay healthy all the time. What can I do to be sure that I am healthy all the time? How can I get the knowledge that I need in simple, natural health care? These are questions we want to answer in this program. Nature's Bounties. In natural health care, the simplicity of it is so good. Understanding what it takes to stay in good health requires some effort, and that effort has to do with knowledge. Knowledge, some people say, is power, and there's a lot of truth in it. But which knowledge? Before I round up today, I just want to touch you a little bit in terms of what is happening that personally for me gives me a little, I won't call it little, I think it's a lot of concern. We are dying in Africa, and that is not good. And much of it is because we don't know some things that we should know, or we have left the things that we know. Either way, it still has to do with knowledge. When I looked at statistics as to what's killing us in Africa, what's killing us in this part of the globe, what's going on, I went and looked up some statistics. And I found that, first, it is estimated that we have about 2.2 billion people in Africa. And yet, we have this as a big problem, death. What's killing us? So I began to ask myself, I need to find out what they tell us is killing us. Because if I know what is killing us, then we'll know what to deal with first. We know the areas in which we can concentrate. We will know what we can do to educate ourselves in those particular areas so that when we can help it, that is, prevent it, then many lives that would have been lost unnecessarily, I say, will be saved. So I looked at it. What is it that is killing us? And I read from several sources, and I'll share a few. The World Health Organization says that malaria is one of the big things killing us. That it's not, as we think most of the time, HIV/AIDS, although that is taking a lot of lives, no doubt about it. There are other things that are killing us, and they, in the organization, they divided it into 3 main areas. 1, communicable diseases, that is infectious diseases. And in addition to that, in that group, they added maternal, neonatal, infantile diseases in that group 1. And in group 2, they said communicable diseases, and they identified them as chronic diseases. Chronic diseases in Africa, in this part of the world? What can we do? Are we going to keep running abroad to look for health care? How many of us will go? And are we able to afford it? How many of us can afford it? These are questions that trouble my mind a lot. And the third one, injuries. And in these 3 categories, let me just share with you very quickly. In group 1, lower respiratory tract infections. What is plaguing the world now is a lower respiratory tract infection. And already it is listed as number 1 as our problem in group 1. The others are HIV/AIDS, diarrheal diseases, and that's why they grouped it with infantile children and so forth problems. Malaria, as I mentioned, tuberculosis. These are the 4 major things, actually 5, that are troubling us as number 1 diseases that can be passed from one person to the other. Tuberculosis is part of them. The World Health Organization in group 2 lists ischemic heart disease. Heart disease, yes, of course. We will look at them closely. Why is this happening? Can we prevent them? Prevention is far better than cure. Stroke. You may know a co-worker, a family member, someone in the neighborhood that is walking around and you wonder, why is this person walking like this? Oh, he or she had a stroke. Can we prevent it? And then can we also help the person that had the stroke? And then cirrhosis of the liver. There are many habits that we indulge in that we don't know where it will end. A little education. Maybe you are a school teacher. Maybe you are a parent. Maybe you are a health worker. Wherever you are, when you educate your audience, they bless you. Because in educating them, they see how they can prevent these problems and therefore not participate in the end result, not be victims unnecessarily. Then group 3, injuries. They kill us. Road injuries. There are some people who do not realize that some things they drink will cause them not to be able to take action when they need to take such action. Some people don't understand what they are doing in interpersonal violence when maybe they have a household member who has some problems and they didn't deal with it. And then there are injuries among siblings, brothers and sisters, and against parents and so forth. And then there is self-harm. Why would a person want to harm himself or herself? There are reasons for this. And such knowledge will help us to know how to avert such reasons. Again and again and again, I want to emphasize, by the grace of God, the mercy that He has given us, Nature's Bounties is meant and has the aim to help us to optimize personal wellness. Because the lectures, the teachings, the demonstrations, they will all be personalized to individual needs. If your individual need is met by the knowledge you gain, oh, what a wonderful thing. We will be able to transition to improved health if our health is not so good. There's nothing like knowing something and then using it on a daily basis, and then it becomes a habit. And the habit is a habit for good health, for life, for continual living in an atmosphere of well-being. I learned during my training and even afterward in listening to many of my lecturers and reading literature and research papers that they have written, that only 5% of the population in most places are in good health. Isn't that something that we need to think about? I often think about it. And I ask myself, I want to be among those 5% if it's possible. By the grace of God, I want to be. So I learn all I can learn in order to do little things, but important things that becomes great, that becomes wide, that begin to impact life positively. That is what we can gain. We can understand it's possible. Natural laws of health, they are simple laws. You will be amazed at how simple they are. They are very simple. You will say, oh, I wish I had known before. But it's not too late. We can learn together. We can grow. We can understand those things that we have neglected or that we didn't pay attention to. But because we discuss them, they come to view. And then, we will have many aha experiences because we will learn those things that really will impact our life positively. We shall learn the principles of such things like hydrotherapy, water treatment, because water is everywhere. Nobody lives in any place without water being available. So how can we use it for the best of our health? How can we use it in emergency situations? How can we use it to alleviate pain? How can we use it to restore health? Water, very powerful. If you have ever seen flood and water carrying trucks, houses, you will know that water is powerful. And when we understand how the contact of hot and cold on our skin can help us send messages to our brain and cause healing to happen in our body, you will be thrilled. I promise you, you will be thrilled. How do I walk properly? What about my posture? All these techniques we'll talk about. How do I breathe properly for good health? For instance, when I worked as a respiratory care therapist in the hospital and I learned proper breathing, I used to have restful time when I worked night shift. Because when my patients can't sleep because they cannot breathe, and I teach them how to breathe, they sleep. Because now they are able to have oxygen into the body. These things we may sometimes take for granted, but they are real and they are important. And because of their importance, and I haven't seen them being used and seeing the result, it gives me so much enthusiasm to know that if this can be shared with more people, then more people will be blessed with good health and they will be able to have what it takes to live in this world in good health. Foods, well, we all have to eat, but which ones are the best ones? When do we eat it? How do we cook it? We'll have those demonstrations to help you understand. And of course, we're going to appreciate your input. You're going to share with us in such a way that we can also share with others. And it's going to be this interaction that will help the program to be a blessing to each of us. Simple herbs. When I look around in the fields or in the garden, I don't always see useless weeds. I see healing. I can go into a field and pick up a few things and say, transplant this in your home. And the person can say, this is weed. Yes, let this weed grow in a special place in your home. And then pick a few leaves and juice and drink the juice that comes from it. And you will see differences in your life. It's awesome. It's wonderful. We cannot take it for granted because this is just too wonderful to be taken for granted. It is so, so important because the statistics that we have in bad health compared to good health is startling. It's a lot, quite different. and we can tap into the wonderful things that God has done for us in giving us the things of nature. When I go to look at statistics, I keep it close to my heart so that I know which area and where the needs are in order to embark on projects or educational programs. Therefore, this program, Nature's Bounty, is the attempt to direct intervention by educating to prevent or reduce unnecessary deaths. There are many, many unnecessary deaths. We want to enhance our lives so that God's promise can be fulfilled when He said, I wish above all things that thou might prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. Therefore, I pray and invite you that by the grace of God, we can impact lives. Let's make this a special invitation to Nature's Bounties, that we can make this program a big blessing to humanity. Keep this appointment. We will be here all the time. We will be in a position to help many, many others. We will be able to do that which will please God Himself because we are saving lives. And that is a wonderful thing. This is where we'll pause today. Next time we meet, we'll continue in such a way that we can expand our lives in good health. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord continue to make His face to shine upon you. God bless you.